So, it's finally here. Supposedly, I'm going to be selling my first car today. The 66 Fury I got when I was 16. I put 4 years of work into it. And now here it is. Now, supposedly, according to this buyer, he's going to be showing up today to pick it up. Not 100% guaranteed. But I figured I would do a little... I would start this video before he shows up. Of course, bought this on a bill of sale. There's no title. So we're going to be doing a bill of sale. I'm way upside down in it, of course. But I'm just glad that, it might be going to somebody who will get some better use out of it than me, because I have plenty of other shit to do. I have plenty of other cars to work on. Pretty much all the brand new parts I got for this car that I haven't put on are in the trunk. I got some rear shocks, a diff gasket, battery hold down, I think a points, I got a set of points and a condenser, and just whatever else. I think these are bulbs. Of course, diff oil never used. And then, of course, all the original parts that actually are useful that aren't junk. I took this bottom windshield trim off to get the cowl off, to get the wiper motor back in, but obviously some screws rotted out. Couldn't get the cowl off, so those are where those sit. Got the wiper arms off, got the headlight bezels, and the air cleaner, and I got 3 original hubcaps, as well as I believe the original spare, because I pulled like 4 wheels out of this trunk and only this one seemed to be it. Also got the rear bumper brackets as well as the rear bumper. I'm going to let him decide whether he wants to take these parts. This whole section under here, except for these, is pretty much every part that I've pulled from this car. Some of those parts I've replaced. Some of those parts probably need to go back on the car eventually to make it better. Here's the original radiator and brake lines. But who the hell knows if he'll take this shit. So figured I would go over the car real quick, all that I did to it. Just try to compress it in a little thing. Try not to bore y'all out, but pretty much the first thing on top of my head I did, just go in alphabetical order, rebuilt the carburetor. Had to buy a brand new carburetor because the old carburetor, the jet seized in it, couldn't get it out. So yeah, I just got a carburetor off of eBay for 25 bucks and switched the tops out. The vacuum advance doesn't work, so every time it's always a bitch to start this car, but once you get it running, it's fine. It just, for some reason, fuel won't get sucked up into the carburetor unless you spray some carb cleaner in there to get it going. So then, next thing, brakes. I did brakes front to back on this thing. Kept the original dumb brakes. Didn't upgrade the disc. Just did wheel cylinders all around. New front to back brake line, and like I've probably mentioned in previous videos, maybe not, who cares, but this guy, some previous owner, started a dual master cylinder conversion, and I decided to finish that with a brand new one, and as well as a brand new brake booster. Also, I had to get a proportioning valve for it, because obviously the original one didn't support dual. So I got that from eBay, and that worked fine. So that's pretty much all I did with the brakes so far. Well, actually, I did put new front shoes on this thing because there was actually a problem where the shoes that were on there when I got this car were 3-inch, and they were too fat. So they're scraping up against the drums, making horrible noise. And I found that the original size was like 2.75 inches, so I downgraded it, and now it's a lot more smoother. So that's all I did. With brakes, also cooling system, because obviously I'm not going in alphabetical order, but cooling system, new thermostat, brand new radiator, new top and bottom hoses. I did not change the water pump. And yeah, so that's the cooling system, the brakes, the carb. The fuel system, revamped that, did not replace any of the hard fuel lines, just replaced all the rubber hoses, put a new fuel pump on it, new fuel filter, and I put a new sender unit in the tank, so you can put gas in the tank and it works, you know. So that's pretty much what I did with the fuel system. Then onto the power steering system, which was kind of the biggest deal. Well, actually that was the biggest deal, is another one. But put a remanned power steering gear in it, and got a new pitman arm and idler arm. So that's all good there. You know, new tie rods and tie rod ends. The original, now we get onto the front suspension. I basically completely redid the front suspension on this car because I started tearing into it and realizing, you know, this front suspension is clapped, so I'm just going to tear it all out and rebuild it. So all the control arms and torsion bars and anything else metal wise is original. All I did was blast it, paint it, and then anything that was rubber on the front end has been replaced. The upper control arm bushings, lower control arm bushings, the sway bar hangers, the sway bar bushings that clamp the sway bar to the strut rods. You know, I think even new strut rod bushings, you know, just completely rebuilt it. That's why it sits low, because the ride height has not been completely adjusted and it needs a front end alignment. And there's still some stuff down there that needs to get cotter pinned. So that's basically all the major work I did on this. And then next on is wiring. 98% of the wiring is original. I've repaired some of it. Some of it is still not repaired. Also, forgot to mention that the power steering pump had to be replaced with the power steering, so this was a used one I got on eBay. Works perfect, but yeah. So, wiring, the only here and there repairs I did make is I wired up the original horn and fixed that. And then there was a wire here that ran to the main harness for the coil. Repaired that. And of course put a new battery cable on it, and then reconnected the main harness cable back into the battery cable so that everything else will get power again. And so far it hasn't gave me an excuse to burn down, so it's been great. Now, this is kind of an eyesore. Y'all are probably wondering what that is. Well, that is an electrical problem that I have not fixed. There's a wire that runs up from the neutral safety switch and then connects into the rest of the harness, and there's supposed to be a connector on that, and that wire obviously was broken, and I never got around to fixing that wire, so we just bypassed the neutral safety switch. So if you do take that off, this car will not run. It will not turn over. So that's how we take care of that. You know, and then of course this right here is an AC wire that runs to this pulley, and I just didn't bother with the AC because obviously I planned on the AC being the last thing. It most likely has nothing in it. Probably has to be converted. So whatever Freon that's supposed to be in it right now is old, it's ancient, it needs to be upgraded. So yeah, I believe these are brand new belts. I think so. I think I remember putting new belts on there. Yeah. And then, the other extra stuff I did with this car is, I just changed the oil, changed the tranny fluid. And of course, moving on here, these tires are not brand new. They do kind of look brand new, but they're not. They're used and they're old. And they're about like 20 years old, surprisingly, But apparently, this guy's Fox Body Mustang burnt down, and he had these tires under a tarp, and these were the right size that fit this car. So I picked them up for $200, and then I had them transferred over. I did have to eventually take one off of the tire machine to sand down the rim because the tire guy didn't sand down the rim, so one of the tires was not holding air. But other than that, fixed that. So all the tires are good. This drum right here obviously was the notorious one. Didn't know they were left-hand thread studs. Destroyed like 3 of them. Put 3 on there. Tack welded them for $20. And it's got new lugs and it's perfect. It holds up. So there's no problems there. And then body-wise, didn't add much other than the horn ring is new because the other one was busted off. The only thing I added to the ass end was one tail light because it was busted, and then the rest was just changing out the bulbs, and the tail lights and turn signals work. And that's another electrical thing I did. I changed the flasher. So now I guess, I don't know if that flasher even works anymore, but I think it still does. Well, yeah, actually it still does, but yeah. So that's pretty much the good side of this car, what I've done so far. But then the only few issues that it does have right now, like I said, the vacuum advance is one. The neutral safety switch is another one. And the next one is the wipers, which I mentioned about the cowl having to come off. So apparently I watched this video on a Newport. They pulled the motor out and they had a nice long shaft to put it back in. Well, in this case, this is a Fury. They didn't give me enough shaft on it. So in order to put it back in, I gotta take the cowl off. And these stupid rotted out screws stopped that from happening. I would have finished that, but weird situation. When I first turned the wipers on, they only move like not even an inch. They move a little bit and they wouldn't do anything. I then pulled the motor and the mechanism, the linkage was not seized on the arms. So it moved back and forth fine. And then I grounded the motor and the motor started spinning. You turn it on and the switch on and it'll be fine. So there's some kind of electrical issue, and I don't know if just putting it back in right now is going to fix it. But ironically, here's the next problem. After I removed this wiper motor, the headlamp stopped working. And I can't seem to really figure out what the deal is with that. Tail lights work, but the headlamps don't. And I'm thinking they were working. Then probably the last problem here is the heater core. Heater core is busted. So we bypass that so that it's not leaking all over the place. So pretty much this wraps up this car. This is all the car in a nutshell, and You know, yet again, no title, no history, everything, all the paperwork was gone. The only thing I can base anything off of was the original tires, which were from 2006. But I believe, based on the front plate, it was from 86. And I looked at what used to be remnants of an inspection sticker. I'm assuming that probably that's an 80s inspection sticker. And the rear bumper is gone. And, you know, the original rear bumper is gone. And that had the plate on it. Yeah, and obviously, assuming that since this thing was last registered in the 80s, the title was probably last done in the 80s. And is it in the online national database? No. There's 0 titles in the online database. So this thing's a ghost car, and it will need a state inspection in order to get a bonded title. So this freaking boomer pulls out a screwdriver and a pick, and he just starts getting these rotted piece of shit screws out like in seconds. And I'm hoping
this one looks a little tougher.
We got 2 more to go, and then
the toughest one.
I could take this cowl out.
Yeah, oh man, that's awful. Dig in.
So unfortunately this guy isn't picking it up today, but he said he's coming to pay for it. So we'll see if he shows up to pay for it.
Alright. I don't hold a lot of confidence on this one.
Yeah, so here's the screws that he did get out. Fucking pieces of shit. Those are staying out. The thing that gives me the worst anxiety about these fucking screws is the windshield is like right here. And this is an old ass windshield. And this thing could just, you know, pounding on it trying to get these rotted screws out could just crack this windshield. And that's exactly what I don't want to happen. So we're trying to be really careful with this. There we go. We got a screw. Good. One last piece of shit screw. Take that. You gotta cut a notch in them.
One more.
Yeah, one more, and then this cowl will come out.
You got him?
Yep. So, long video short, you got the screws out, pulled the cowl off, and now I'm just vacuuming the crap out of it, and here it is right here. Gonna clean it out and then bolt the motor back in and see if anything changes with the wipers at least, and maybe something will change with the lights, but I don't know because I'm not a wiring expert. So I'll be right back. And turns out that the problem wasn't the motor, it was actually the joint on the linkage. So these 2 joints here for the actual wiper arms are working fine, but this joint right here locked up, and it's supposed to move with the motor, and obviously the motor doesn't have enough torque to break that free, so that's why it was stuck like this. But I think he got it working.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's something broken right there.
But there's still a problem with it. It's just, all the dirt was like right here, so it made complete sense that the dirt would fall in there, and then, you know, just all the elements got to it and destroyed it. That joint was seized. That little arm's supposed to move, and It wasn't moving, that's why we had no wipers. But then, guess what? Happened. Lights. Yeah, it's during the day, so you can't see them that well, but lights work again. So my headlamp problem was solved by putting the motor back in. It's just so weird. And there's a piece of metal, like thin metal, that was screwed into the wiper motor that then went under one of the nuts that held the motor in, and that seems to be like some kind of ground jump there. I don't know, it's really weird. But my headlights work.
Headlights are grounded through the mounting of the wiper motor.
I sold my car, but now he's just got to come pick it up. This is Nathan, the new owner of the 66 Fury. It's been about how many weeks?
Probably 3.
Yeah, he's finally here to pick it up. So yeah, I'll see y'all in a bit when this is moved. So there goes the Fury. He brought his truck and trailer, and they're going to be loading it, and it's going to be gone. And then I don't know if I'm going to end up with another classic project car, but stabilize the camera a bit. So far it's looking good, like it's going to go on the trailer, no problem.
Straight. Right there.
There we go. And there she goes. Off to Capel.